Accidental Chaebol, Navigating Life with Korea's Most Powerful Women. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 11. Li Huiyuan glanced at Li Shanyu, who was sitting beside her. After doing you this favor, the two of us don't owe each other. Li Shanyu smiled slightly when he heard this. No problem, you just do what I say in a moment. Li Huiyuan nodded. Looking at Li Huiyuan, who had a cold temperament, the corners of Li Shanyu's mouth rose, evoking a bad smile. Sooner or later, Lao Tzu will have to tame your hunting horse, because it's a dark mark. Therefore, each group only needs to submit the quotation information. Time is also fast. The groups that accompanied them didn't even wait for the results, and got up and left directly. There were only 3 people left at the scene: Zhou Liangan, Li Huiyuan, and Li Shanyu. After Li Shanyu saw Zhou Liangan, there was a hint of suspicion in his eyes. This guy shouldn't be afraid of the Fire Bear Gang and want to come forward to cut off his beard. Thinking of this, a trace of gloom slipped through Li Shanyu's eyes. Really? 10 minutes later, a middle-aged man with gold-rimmed glasses and a big belly walked in, took the contract in his hand and walked towards Zhou Liangan. Congratulations to Mr. Zhou. At a price of 350 million yuan, this is a contract. If Mr. Zhou thinks there is no problem, he will sign it, the man said and handed the contract in his hand to Zhou Liangan. Zhou Liangan signed his name, and then took out the seal from the briefcase he was carrying and stamped it. Obviously, the man was not satisfied with the price that was auctioned. However, it also exceeded the reserve price of 300 million, so he could only sign a contract with Zhou Liangan. Li Shanyu clenched his fists tightly, and a chill flashed in his eyes. With a murderous gaze, he stared at Zhou Liangan. After the contract is signed, it is in duplicate. Zhou Liangan put away the contract and was about to leave. At this moment, Li Shanyu got up violently and strode in front of Zhou Liangan, staring at him with dead eyes. Dare to snatch food from my mouth, boy, I will give you 2 ways. One way is 330 million, sell this land to me. And the other way, that is, I will kill you and bid again. Li Huiyuan, the cold royal sister on the side, after hearing Li Shanyu say this word for word, her beautiful eyes obviously showed a trace of disgust. Looked at Zhou Liangan, who was a ruffian in front of Li Shanyu, but he was a little sympathetic. Hearing Li Shanyu say this, the corners of Zhou Liangan's mouth hooked up with a sneer of disdain. Don't think I don't know your little tricks. Today I put my words here. The Fire Bear Gang dares to move a finger against me, and I dare to let them disappear in Seoul. Speaking of this, Zhou Liangan took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it, spit out a puff of smoke towards Li Shanyu's face, and said unhurriedly, I advise you to wipe your ass quickly, you don't have a few good days to live. After speaking, Zhou Liangan walked past Li Shanyu towards the door. Li Shanyu stared at Zhou Liangan's back, and a trace of gloom flashed in his eyes. 350 million. The offer is only 20 million higher than itself. Said that he didn't know his reserve price, and Li Shanyu definitely didn't believe it. But the reserve price, except for himself and Li Huiyuan to know, it is impossible for a third person to know. Thinking of this, Li Shanyu stared at Li Huiyuan with gloomy eyes. I thought that I had worked so hard for so long to make a wedding dress for someone else. Li Shanyu couldn't help but wave his hand towards Li Huiyuan's face and slapped it fiercely. Asaba. A woman dares to betray me. Lao Tzu wants to sell you to Southeast Asia to make chickens. Li Huiyuan looked at Li Shanyu, who was suddenly furious, and her eyes widened violently. Then, she suddenly felt a warm palm wrap around her waist, and then she was embraced by the man. Li Shanyu's hand was also killed by Zhou Liangan, and his wrist was buckled. He felt like he was being pinched by an iron tongue, unable to move, unable to pump if he wanted to. He looked at Zhou Liangan with gloomy eyes. Asaba, bastard, you really have something to do with this slut. Zhou Liangan pushed Li Shanyu away, and a trace of contempt flashed in his eyes. It's really not a shame that a man would do something to a woman. Li Huiyuan stumbled, stared at Zhou Liangan with a look of resentment. Asaba, bastard, you wait for Lao Tzu, I swear you won't see the sun tomorrow. Li Shanyu, who knew that he was invincible, got up and left the conference room after leaving such a nutritious trash talk. Li Huiyuan, who was lying in Zhou Liangan's arms, looked at Zhou Liangan's handsome face, and her cheeks flushed slightly. Thanks. Thank you for helping me. Do you have time for the evening? Yes, I have time all night. Zhou Liangan blurted out subconsciously, it's all adults. Of course, Li Huiyuan understood what Zhou Liangan meant. Her pretty face was slightly red. Hooligans. Episode 12. 2 people walking side by side on the street. Li Huiyuan turned her head and glanced at Zhou Liangan. That Li Shanyu and the Fire Bear Gang are very close. You are doing it with them like this. Aren't you afraid that they will find you trouble? Zhou Liangan smiled and shook his head. I dare to do this. Of course I'm not afraid, but looking at that guy's reaction today, maybe I think that the 2 of us should work together to trap him, and we can't deal with me. Maybe we will transfer our anger to you. Hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Li Huiyuan frowned slightly. But the 2 of us only met today, that bastard wouldn't be that stupid. Zhou Liangan shook his head slightly playfully and smiled. Maybe he's too angry to deal with me right now, and maybe he'll take a shot at you. After Zhou Liangan's reminder, Li Huiyuan suddenly became alert. You're right. What should I do if that bastard really wants to deal with me? Li Huiyuan blinked her big eyes and stared straight at Zhou Liangan. Zhou Liangan actually saw a hint of playfulness on the face of the cold royal sister in front of him. He coughed softly. Ahem. Napoleon said that the best defense is to attack, and instead of passively waiting for that guy to come to you for trouble, it is better to get that guy out first, so that he can't come to you for trouble. Li Huiyuan raised her eyebrows slightly, a thoughtful look. Immediately, a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he turned his head and looked directly at Zhou Liangan. You want to use me against Li Huiyuan? That's why you said that to me, right? I have to say, there is a reason why Li Huiyuan, a woman, can be a representative. This woman is indeed wise. How can you say it's so ugly? It's clearly a mutual cooperation. When Li Huiyuan heard this, she sneered. The smile is like a flower. Win-win cooperation, then you can only cooperate if it is beneficial to both parties. But from what you said, I haven't heard anything beneficial to me. Believe it or not, that guy can't deal with me anyway. As for whether he will attack you, then I can't say. When Li Huiyuan heard this, a complicated look flashed in her eyes. Okay, cooperation, but I want to know what you need me to do for you. So tonight? Get out. Li Huiyuan roared. Her voice was too loud, so much so that the people around looked sideways at Li Huiyuan. Li Huiyuan's face was slightly red, and she glared at Zhou Liangan viciously. Bastard! It's all your fault. Zhou Liangan helplessly spread his hands. With an innocent face, he said, wronged, conscience of heaven and earth, I mean sit down tonight and have a good talk. Speaking of this, Zhou Liangan slapped his head and looked at Li Huiyuan with a smile. You shouldn't think crooked. You're so dirty. When Li Huiyuan heard this, the corners of her mouth couldn't help twitching a few times. She swore that was not what that bastard had meant. Her eyes were slightly wide. Angry wide eyes. Zhou Liangan. I'm not in the mood to go shopping with you all the time. Where do you want to eat? I'm not familiar with Seoul, so it's up to you to pick the place. Li Huiyuan pulled Zhou Liangan to a high-end Western restaurant in Humching. The environment is quite nice. After ordering food, Zhou Liangan ran a few steps in the name of going to the bathroom, came to the phone booth outside the Western restaurant, and called Cui Changji. You should have received it. Got it. What the hell do you want? I'm telling you, you'd better not go too far. Don't worry, as long as you are obedient, that video will disappear forever. Okay, what do you want me to do? Help me get rid of Li Huiyuan. And by the way, warn the Fire Bear gang, tell them not to provoke people who shouldn't be provoked. Within 2 hours, I want to see you finish this matter. Hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Cui Changji on the other end of the phone turned pale. Now that it's a society governed by the rule of law, do you think I can do this? Don't be naive, Mr. Cui. The Fire Bear gang belongs to the underground forces. Sweep a few casinos to warn them. You can become a hero of Goryeo instead, which will help you go further in the future. After Zhou Liangan finished speaking, there was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment. Okay. It's no problem to sweep a few casinos of the Fire Bear gang, so I can't help you if you get rid of Li Huiyuan in such a short time. It's up to the Fire Bears to do this, and it's easy for someone like them to make a tax clerk disappear, isn't it? Cui Changji on the other end of the phone was silent again. Who the hell are you, and why are you doing this? Although it was only a brief conversation, Zhou Liangan, thoughtful, and the degree of the boss of things, Cui Changji had to pay attention to it. I know you want to be president, and I can also help you fulfill this wish of yours, but only if the two of us want to cooperate for a win-win situation. That video is just to talk to you. As long as you do what I say, I can help you get what you want. After speaking, Zhou Liangan hung up the phone. Cui Changji, in the villa, Rare lit a cigarette. He exhaled a puff of smoke. I dialed the phone number of the chairman of Fire Bear Real Estate. Zhou Liangan returned to the restaurant. After all, there is a cold royal sister waiting for him. Only money and beauties cannot be disappointed. This is Zhou Liangan's creed. Episode 13. Back to the restaurant. Li Huiyuan glanced at Zhou Liangan, raised her eyebrows slightly, and said with a smile, if Mr. Zhou doesn't come back, I almost asked the waiter to look for you. When Zhou Liangan heard this, he looked at Li Huiyuan angrily. Thank me. Hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Li Huiyuan's eyes flashed with a trace of curiosity, and a pair of beautiful eyes stared directly at Zhou Liangan. Helped me solve a big problem? What a big problem. Zhou Liangan raised his head and looked at Li Huiyuan with a smile. Li Huiyuan, I'll solve this trouble for you. Hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Li Huiyuan looked at Zhou Liangan in surprise. There was a hint of surprise in my heart. Before Zhou Liangan came, he was still thinking about what to do if Li Huiyuan really communicated with those scumbags, bastards, and plotted against him. Looking at Zhou Liangan's previous mutual temptation with himself, it didn't look like he could really help himself. But it was less than 20 minutes. Zhou Liangan gave himself such good news. What is called surprise? When things turn out significantly better than you expected, that's a surprise. Zhou Liangan had actually already thought of a countermeasure, but just now, I had to talk to Li Huiyuan for so long, just to let Li Huiyuan know the difficulty of this matter. Then when she solves the scourge of Li Xianyu, Li Huiyuan will naturally have a good impression of herself. Li Huiyuan, who was immersed in joy, seemed to ignore that what Li Xianyu wanted to deal with most was actually Zhou Liangan, and Zhou Liangan was the one who wanted to bring down Li Xianyu the most. Li Huiyuan snapped her fingers. The waiter walked up to her. "What do you need, this beautiful young lady? Open a bottle for me, 85 Lafite." Through the reaction of the woman in front of her, Zhou Liangan understood very well that his careful thinking had succeeded. The waiter opened a drink for the two. The bright red liquid slowly flows into the glass. Li Huiyuan shook gently, immediately raised a glass to Zhou Liangan. "Cheers." Zhou Liangan smiled and nodded. "Cheers." The two men looked at each other and smiled. Some people are happy and some are sad, and a few families are happy and a few are worried. Just when Zhou Liang and Li Huiyuan were eating steak in a high-end Western restaurant, half of the 20 casinos under the Fire Bear Gang were seized. Several projects in the hands of Mars Real Estate have also been investigated by relevant departments on the grounds of incomplete procedures. Everything happened within an hour after Zhou Liangan made a phone call to Cui Changji. The efficiency is superb. Jiang Juanhao, the president of Mars Real Estate, didn't have time to be angry with his subordinates. Suddenly, the phone rang in a hurry. Bell 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 bell. Jiang Juanhao picked up the phone. "Who are you?" Cui Changji's cold voice came from the other end of the phone. "I'm Cui Changji. This time it's just a small warning to you. You helped people who shouldn't be helped. You provoked people who shouldn't be messed with. This kind of thing. I don't want to have a next time. By the way, it must be within an hour, so that Li Xianyu can evaporate in the world, and if you can't do this within an hour, then there is no need for the Fire Bear Gang to exist." After Cui Changji finished speaking, he hung up the phone directly without the slightest drag. Jiang Juanhao listened to the blind voice on the other end of the phone, and his face turned pale. He slammed the receiver on the table. The receiver of the phone suddenly fell apart. A tall man with an inch head and a suit walked up to Jiang Juanhao and replied respectfully, "I'm here." Jiang Juanhao sat on the chair. "Two things. First, check for me. What does this Li Xianyu have to do with our group? Second, within 40 minutes, cut off this Li Huiyuan's head for me and put it in front of me." A hint of fierceness flashed in Jiang Juanhao's eyes. So many years. It was the first time Yang Zishu had seen Jiang Juanhao lose such a big temper. He nodded repeatedly. "Don't worry, President, I'll take care of this guy." Jiang Juanhao waved his hand impatiently. "Go. His head must be with me in 40 minutes. Yang Zishu respectfully exited Jiang Juanhao's office. A big move is quietly underway in Seoul. At this time, the culprit who caused this turmoil was showing palmistry to a cold royal sister. Zhou Liangan gently grabbed the weak and boneless little hand, looking thoughtful. "Girl, I have a bad omen for you." Episode 14. Maybe it's because of the alcohol. Dao Ling, who usually looks high and rejects people thousands of miles away, is becoming more and more unscrupulous in front of Zhou Liangan at this time. After hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Li Huiyuan glared at Zhou Liangan angrily. "Is the old lady, or D?" When Zhou Liangan heard this, he shook his head and said extremely seriously, "You are lying, by the will of wine." Li Huiyuan finally took off her usual disguise. After hearing Zhou Liangan say this, his brain twitched, and he blurted out subconsciously, "If you don't believe you." Halfway through the words, Li Huiyuan seemed to realize something, glared at Zhou Liangan viciously, and pulled her hand out of the bastard's hand. "Stinky bastard, I didn't expect you to have some ability. The old lady didn't fall for you, you stinky rascal." When Zhou Liangan heard this, he looked innocent. "Heaven and earth conscience. It's true that you have a bad omen tonight, don't forget, Li Xianyu hasn't settled it yet." Of course, Zhou Liangan knew that he only gave Cui Changji 2 hours. With Cui Changji's means, within these 2 hours, he will definitely be able to make Li Huiyuan evaporate from the world. But why should Zhou Liangan, who understands this matter, say this? Li Huiyuan said this. This is definitely not because Zhou Liangan wants to save a night's room fee. After Li Huiyuan listened to Zhou Liangan's analysis, she bit her thin lip lightly, and there was a faint panic in her eyes. Then he looked up at Zhou Liangan. So what should I do?" Hearing Li Huiyuan say this, Zhou Liangan coughed slightly. "Ahem, who called me a kind-hearted person? You can't see others suffering and being bullied the most, so I can reluctantly go to your house to protect you." Of course, Li Huiyuan knew the little Jojo in Zhou Liang's heart, and she narrowed her eyes slightly. "Little bastard, do you really want to go to my house?" Zhou Liangan nodded again and again. "Mainly to keep you safe." "I'm afraid I won't be safe if I bring you little bastard back to my house," Li Huiyuan said angrily. After speaking, Li Huiyuan got up. Perhaps because of the wine, Li Huiyuan was unsteady on her feet, staggering. Zhou Liangan supported Li Huiyuan on the side. "I'd better send you back." Both of them drank. The car will definitely not be able to drive. The two had just walked to the side of the road. Not far away, a few delinquent teenagers walked towards the two. Look at the skinny monkey-like appearance of those bad teenagers. Zhou Liangan knew that these people were definitely not from the Fire Bear Gang, but these bad teenagers also happened to help Zhou Liangan. I saw a trace of solemnity flashing on Zhou Liangan's face. She turned her head to look at Li Huiyuan, and said very seriously, "Have you seen those guys? They are very likely to be stalked by the Fire Bear Gang. and your family can't go back, so it's better to go to me first. Got a little bit of wine. Li Huiyuan's consciousness was a little blurred, and he looked at the delinquent boy who dyed his hair in a colorful way not far away. His brow furrowed slightly. The weak and boneless little hand subconsciously grabbed Zhou Liangan's arm. Are they really coming at us? Or else? Do you think? Hurry up and come with me, and get a taxi out of the way of them. Li Huiyuan, who was on top of the wine, nodded subconsciously after listening to Zhou Liangan's words. Then let Zhou Liangan grab his wrist and walk briskly towards the side of the road. At 10 o'clock in the evening, there are quite a few people in Gangnam district. Obviously, those delinquent teenagers don't have the courage to commit crimes in broad daylight. Zhou Liangan came to the side of the road and waved at the passing taxis. The taxi pulled up in front of the two of them. Zhou Liangan helped Li Huiyuan to sit in the back seat. Xingping Hotel, Episode 15. The bumps of the car, mixed with the unpleasant smell of the taxi. At this time, Li Huiyuan's wine surged. A pair of coins wrapped around Zhou Liangan's neck, looked at Zhou Liangan with affection, and issued a cry to Zhou Liangan, a torture from the soul. Little bastard, do you believe in love? When Zhou Liangan heard this, he suddenly felt a headache. There was a look of helplessness on his face. Yu sighed. Hey, don't care if I don't believe in love, spit out 100,000 in the car. Li Huiyuan heard Zhou Liangan say this, and burst out laughing. Li Huiyuan rolled her eyes angrily, and Zhou Liangan was angry. The white jade finger pasted Zhou Liangan's forehead. Little bastard, what's in it for you to laugh at me? To be honest, I've taken a fancy to your Hermes bag. Go to the second-hand store to recycle it, at least 1 or 2 million. Zhou Liangan said with a little joking. When Li Huiyuan heard this, she hugged the Hermes in her hand tightly, stared at Zhou Liangan vigilantly, and subconsciously leaned in the direction of the car door. The taxi driver just smiled and shook his head as he watched the two of them laugh and play. After arriving at the destination, Zhou Liangan helped Li Huiyuan to his room. Zhou Liangan closed the door. At this time, Li Huiyuan, who was lying on Zhou Liangan's shoulder, suddenly stood on tiptoe and sighed in Zhou Liang's ear. Little bastard, in fact, I know that the delinquent teenagers who followed us are not from the Fire Bear gang, and I also know that you little bastard deliberately lied to me. Li Huiyuan said delicately. When Zhou Liangan heard this, a meaningful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Since you know that those guys aren't from the Fire Bears, why are you coming here with me? You little bastard has been calculating for so long, and my sister can't bear to hit you. What do you think of this reason? Zhou Liangan nodded. That's a good reason. After today, you won't be allowed to come to me. It's just a good dream, okay? What about chance encounters after that? If you really meet again, then my sister will follow you for the rest of her life. Okay. Zhou Liangan nodded in agreement. A few families were happy, a few were sad, and one family died. Jiang Juanhao came directly to Cui Changji's residence in Gangnam district with a mahogany lacquer box. Knock knock. Kang Junho knocked on the door. Cui Changji was wearing a nightgown and opened the door impatiently. Who? Don't let people rest at night? Cui Changji scolded angrily. Seeing this, Kang Junho walked up to Cui Changji head-on. Director Cui, when I visited late at night, I actually wanted to give Director Cui 2 gifts, hoping that the head of the room would like it. As the saying goes, reach out and don't hit the smiling person. Cui Changji glanced at Kang Junho. He said coldly, come in and talk. After speaking, Cui Changji led Kang Junho into the room. Come to the room. Jiang Juanhao put the mahogany lacquer box on the coffee table. There is also a bank card on top of the mahogany lacquered box. This is a little bit of my heart and the sincerity I have shown you. Seeing this, Cui Changji frowned slightly. You know, I'm not short of money. There are 10 billion in the card, which is a gift from me to you, and the password is 6 zeros. Hearing this, Cui Changji coughed lightly. Ahem. I won't be allowed to do this next time. Then he put away the bank card without a trace. Jiang Juanhao smiled and nodded. After that, he reached out and slowly opened the mahogany lacquer box. This is my second gift to you, and I hope you enjoy it too. The box slowly opened. Inside the box was a bloody human head. Seeing this, Cui Changji's hair stood upside down. His eyes widened violently, and he looked at the head in the box in disbelief, and he didn't say a word for a long time. Hard and soft, this guy is undoubtedly demonstrating to himself. Cui Changji naturally understands this. He took a deep breath, looked up at Jiang Juanhao coldly. What do you mean by that? Jiang Juanhao smiled slightly. Director Cui, this is the kid you told me to do. I'm doing things according to your instructions. Xingping Hotel. Zhou Liangan opened his eyes. Episode 16. Looking at the empty room, Zhou Liangan just smiled and shook his head. Now this piece of land has been taken into his own hands. At present, the top priority is to assign this piece of land to Jiangnan district. If he finds Cui Changji, it is inevitable that he will not be found out by this guy. But if you don't look for it, this land will not be divided into Jiangnan district, and you will lose a lot of money at that time. Zhou Liangan leaned on the sofa, tapped on the table, and unveiled himself in his mind. What should he do? He took the map of the Seoul plan, rubbing his chin. His eyes were on a planned area that enclosed his own piece of land. On the map, the piece of land in his hand is as if someone has deliberately ripped a piece of land from another piece of land. The other piece of land was 3 times larger, according to Zhou Liangan's previous memories. Although these 2 plots of land are adjacent, one is zoned to Gangnam District and the other is zoned to Gwangjin District. When housing prices are at their craziest, the housing prices of 2 communities less than a few hundred meters apart may be 5 or 6 times different. Zhou Liangan rubbed his chin and narrowed his eyes slightly. He muttered, "Perhaps, you can make use of that land." His fingertips tapped on the tabletop. A hint of firmness flashed in his eyes, and the smile on the corner of his mouth deepened. Yes, Zhou Liang thought with peace of mind. A pale blue, translucent curtain of light appeared in front of him. Of course, this light curtain can only be seen by himself. Zhou Liangan opened the mall. Look for information about the land in the mall, rummaging for a long time. Finally, in an inconspicuous place, I found all the news about the land. Zhou Liangan's fingertips lightly touched the light curtain in front of him. Zhou Liangan clicked the button to confirm the transaction. 700,000 was swiped from his bank card. After that, a brown paper bag lay quietly on the coffee table in front of him. Zhou Liangan picked up the paper bag, opened the paper bag and looked inside the paper bag, the information of the landowner. Zhou Liangan looked at the names in the document bag and fell into deep thought. This piece of land is actually Lu Shuiying's. Lu Shuiying did start by speculating in real estate, and he was the first to make a fortune. And after making a fortune, he hoarded a lot of assets in his hands with a good investment vision. To be reasonable, this bastard, except for being a little horny, has a good eye. Zhou Liangan recalled violently. Although Lu Shuiying, a bastard, is greedy for money and lustful, he is obedient and extremely fond of his daughter, judging by the memory and the timeline. At present, Lu Dolly should be the same age as herself. In other words, Lu Dolly will also take the academic ability test this year, and there is only 1 month left. Thinking of this, the smile on the corner of Zhou Liangan's mouth became deeper and deeper at this time. Looks like we have to start with this woman. It's not hard to get close to this woman. Don't forget that Zhou Liangang is a proper student. There are countless awards in hand. There are more honorary certificates in hand, and they are all some very valuable award certificates. If you want to make up for this woman, it's really a good reason. Thinking of this, Zhou Liangan snuffed out the cigarette butt in his hand and got up. Go home first, see sister and I. Take my certificate by the way, and then come to Lu Dolly. Zhou Liangan thought of this, took his things, and came to the front desk. Check out. 5 minutes later, the front desk glanced at Zhou Liangan. There are blood stains on the sheets. The blood stains can't be washed off. The cost of the sheets will be deducted from your deposit. No problem, right? Zhou Liangan nodded. Feel free to do whatever you want. Check out. Zhou Liangan returned to the previous restaurant, took Lao Jin's car, and went straight to Busan. Meanwhile, Busan, Zhou Ronghua found Zheng Eun-ae with great interest. Love, Episode 17. Leslie Chow stood at the door of Zheng Eun-ae's house. Although he had something in his hand, he ate a mouthful of closed door. Leslie Chow continued to bang on Zheng Eun-ae's door. Love, the marriage between the two of us has already been decided. Why do you want to go back on it? Even if you want to go back, give me a reason, okay? But there was no movement in the room. Love, I won't say much. Even if you refuse the marriage of the two of us should talk about this matter face to face. What's the matter with such an unexplained breakup? In the room, Zheng Eun-ae sat on the chair, hearing the movement outside, and a trace of helplessness appeared on his face. She then looked up at Li Hezhu. What should I do? Why doesn't this guy give up? Li Hezhu looked at Zheng Eun-ae when she heard this. It's not a good idea to keep him stuck at the door, so that the people around him don't know what to think of us, or you might as well come forward and send him away. Zheng Eun-ae nodded, and said helplessly, it seems that this is the only way. After speaking, Zheng Eun-ae opened the door extremely helplessly. I said, I don't like you, and I'm already looking for a regular job in Seoul now, so the two of us can get together and disperse, and we won't entangle each other in the future. I hope you don't embarrass me. When Zhou Ronghua saw Zheng Eun-ae, he was excited to step forward and hug her. Zheng Eun-ae stepped back again and again, looking at Zhou Ronghua with a cold expression. Stop, if you dare to go forward, I'm going to call the police, Zheng Eun-ae said as she gestured at the bright kitchen knife she had just used to cook. Seeing this, Zhou Ronghua only felt a chill down his spine and a cold sweat on his back. He looked up at Zheng Eun-ae. And I want to ask why you have to insist on breaking up with me. Zheng Eun-ae glanced at Zhou Ronghua coldly. The marriage with you was led by my family at the beginning, but I didn't feel for you. It was the kind that I really didn't feel. So the two of us got together and dispersed, and you don't come to me. When Zhou Ronghua heard this, his fat face couldn't help but twitch a few times. Standing still, he opened his mouth and didn't say a word for a long time. This is a Hyundai parked not far from them. A teenager got out of the car. The boy had a wicked smile on his face. I have to say, the girl in her school days really ate such a ruffian boy. Zhou Liangan smiled and walked in front of Zheng Eun-ae. I got a Chanel bag for Zheng Eun-ae. Sister and I saw it when I went shopping before, and I think you must be very beautiful on your back, try it? Of course, Zhou Liangan noticed Zhou Ronghua, but he selectively ignored this man. Zhou Ronghua looked at the handsome Zhou Liangan, with a trace of bitterness on his face. A wry smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. Okay. Love, I understand the reason, I don't force you, I wish you happiness. After speaking, Zhou Ronghua turned around and left in despair. There was no hysteria as expected. On the contrary, it is very calm. But the calmer this guy is, the more Zhou Liangan has a faint bad feeling in his heart. This guy is simply too forbearing. In the original plot, this guy robbed Ziheo's father's Daeong Heavy Industries, and he was able to adopt Ziheo. This kind of person's scheming is simply not too deep, but Zhou Liangan is not afraid. If Zhou Ronghua really has any ideas that he shouldn't have this time, Zhou Liangan doesn't mind at all and gets rid of this guy. Zheng Eun-ae looked at the big packaging box in his hand. Angry white eyes Zhou Liangan. He lowered his voice and whispered, "This must be very expensive. Actually, I don't like these bags very much. Do you have any shopping receipts? And I'll return them tomorrow." At this time, he didn't wait for Zhou Liangan to speak. I saw Li Hezhu on the side, snatching the gift box in Zheng Eun-ae's hand. "If you don't like it, just give it to me." Seeing this, Zheng Eun-ae immediately snatched the gift box in Li Hezhu's hand, tightly hugged in his arms. "Who said I don't like? Someone just said they didn't like it and wanted to return it." "That's because." "Because of what?" said Li Hezhu with a smile. Zheng Eun-ae glanced at Li Hezhu and said angrily, "I want you to take care of it." After speaking, Mei Zizi hugged the gift box and walked to the kitchen. "I'm going to cook." Then, Li Hezhu narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at Zhou Liangan with a smile. "Little bastard, shouldn't we settle that account properly?" Episode 18. Zhou Liangan was stared at by Li Hezhu and his scalp was numb. He coughed softly. Ahem. What happened before? I have a very bad memory. Why did I suddenly lose my memory when something happened before? Watching Zhou Liangan stall was stupid. Li Hezhu couldn't help laughing at once, and laughed out loud. First place in the National Youth Mathematics Competition. First place in the National Youth Essay Competition. Top 10 Outstanding Young Persons in Busan. Zhou Liangan, who is known as a genius student, has a bad memory? Zhou Liangan whistled, nodded at Li Hezhu seriously. That's right, my memory is really a mess, it's bad. I really don't know what happened before. Hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Li Hezhu rolled his eyes wildly, fully realized what Zheng Eun-ae meant by the shameless bastard in his mouth. Zhou Liangan, this little bastard, is a little too shameless. Li Hezhu narrowed her eyes slightly, turned her head and glanced at Zhou Liangan with a smile. Little bastard, my sister doesn't embarrass you. Do my sister a favor, the previous thing will be written off. How about it? Looked at Li Hezhu with a wolf grandmother-like evil smile. Zhou Liangan shook his head solemnly. No, it's not good. You see that you are smiling so badly, you must be scheming against me. Seeing that Zhou Liangan rejected himself so decisively, Li Hezhu couldn't bear it anymore. Little bastard, if you don't promise me, then believe me or not. After thinking about it, Li Hezhu didn't come up with a suitable reason to threaten Zhou Liangan. That's when it happened. Zheng Eun-ae walked out with the last chicken soup to be cooked. Hey, what are you two talking about? Go wash your hands when you're eating. Zhou Liangan walked past Li Hezhu and said with a little playfulness, Sister Hezhu, don't think so much, you can't threaten me. If you really want to ask me for help, as long as the conditions are tempting enough, I will definitely not refuse. Looking at Zhou Liangan, who was like an old fritter, Li Hezhu was speechless in his heart. Liangan, eat a chicken leg and make up for it. Liangan, eat a piece of fish. Liangan looked at the rice bowl in front of Zhou Liangan like a hill. The corners of Li Hezhu's mouth couldn't help twitching. She slammed her chopsticks on the dining table and straightened up to head upstairs. Seeing this, Zhou Liangan pretended to be concerned and said with a smile, Sister Hezhu, you haven't eaten a bite. Won't you be hungry at night? Poof. Li Hezhu wanted to resist the urge to vomit blood, and gritted her teeth with a blue face and said, the old lady has been fed by the two of you. Sister Hezhu, do you admit that you are a dog? Zhou Liangan said with a little playfulness. Poof. Li Hezhu took a deep breath. I forcibly suppressed the urge to go out. Then he snorted coldly. Zhou Liangan, NAI will go to Seoul with me next week, and NAI will live in my house at that time. If you are so stubborn again, do you think I will let you little bastard into my door at that time? Sure enough, if you come out to mix, you have to pay it back. Zhou Liangan raised his eyebrows slightly. Living in your house? I think you have a fiancé at home, right? Nonsense. We're not married yet, why do we want to live together? Li Hezhu said angrily. After saying that, he walked straight upstairs. After Li Hezhu left, Zhou Liangan smiled and did Jing inside. Sister Ai, I want to kill you. As he spoke, Zhou Liangan fell into Zheng Eun-ae's majestic chest. Zheng Eun-ae looked at Zhou Liangan, who looked like a child, with a touch of red on her pretty face, and bit her thin lips. Little bastard, don't mess around, Hezhu is upstairs. Then I want to hear Sister Ai tell me a story tonight. After hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Zheng Eun's love gave him a white look. The white jade finger passled Zhou Liangan's forehead. He said angrily, you little bastard just want to hear stories? Zhou Liangan showed an innocent expression on his face and nodded solemnly. Really, what I said, Sister Ai, don't you still believe it? The most unbelievable thing is you little bastard. Zheng Eun-ae said angrily. Episode 19. Zheng Eun-ae pushed open the door of the room with her hands and feet. She turned and cautiously closed the door. Love, you're back. I thought you'd be staying with that little bastard today. A slightly playful voice came from behind Zheng Eun-ae. Hearing the voice from behind, Zheng Eun's delicate body trembled slightly. Then he turned his head to look behind him. Hezhu, why haven't you rested yet? Li Hezhu looked at Zheng Eun-ae with a smile. Love, there's something I want to talk to you about. After hearing Li Hezhu say this, Zheng Eun-ae looked up at Li Hezhu. Hezhu, what do you want to talk to me about? Isn't it really better not to be together with people you don't like? After hearing Li Hezhu say this, Zheng Eun-ae was silent for a while. After thinking for a long time, he nodded slightly. That's right. I think if you don't like that person, it's better not to get entangled with that person. It's not going to do you both any good. Zheng Eun-ae said very seriously. After receiving Zheng Eun-ae's affirmative reply, Li Hezhu nodded with a smile. Then I understand now. Thank you for your kindness. Are we two so polite? But you don't really want to break up with your fiancé? Li Hezhu showed a wry smile on her face, and turned her head to look at Zheng Eun-ae helplessly. Who will take it seriously if you pretend to like it? Speaking of this, Li Hezhu paused, but don't worry, even if the two of us fall out, I have a way to arrange you to a big company. Speaking of this, Li Hezhu looked at Zheng Eun-ae with a serious face. Nai, how about I say I'll send you to the Universe Group? The Cosmos Group is a well-known Chaebol group in Goryeo. It is a long-established enterprise. It is true that the average person is not qualified to enter it. Hearing Li Hezhu say this, Zheng Eun-ae frowned slightly. I went. And what if I went and messed up? No, I can't do that kind of big business. Li Hezhu patted Zheng Eun-ae's shoulder. And I believe you can do it. Seeing your choice, I think I also understand. How should I choose myself? Hearing her say this, Zheng Eun-ae opened her mouth, as if she wanted to persuade the woman in front of her. But when the words came to his lips, he felt a little unable to speak. Everyone has their own choice, and Li Hezhu's choice really shouldn't interfere too much. Meanwhile, Zhou Liangan lay on the bed, lit a cigarette and comfortably swallowed the clouds and smoked the fog. First approached Lu Shuiying through the identity of a tutor, but the key question was how to get the land from Lu Shuiying's hands. That old fox would not willingly sell that piece of land to himself because of his identity as a tutor, or because he could help Lu Dali improve his grades. Cigarettes burned out. Zhou Liangan poked the cigarette butt into the ashtray fiercely. Why don't you kill someone with a knife? Zhou Liangan muttered. Speaking of this, his eyes lit up, and the corners of his mouth hooked up a hint of playful arc. Yes, what to do? Zhou Liangan fell asleep in a drowsy state. The next day, he packed up the certificates and other things, and returned to Seoul again. This time, he directly picked an educational institution near Lu Shuiying's home. Striding into it. Excuse me, do you still need to recruit tutors here? Then, a tall, curvy, graceful woman walked straight to Zhou Liangan. The woman wore a beige V-neck base layer on her upper body. The lower body is a burgundy hip-wrapping skirt. There was a high silk on the moon retreat. You stepped on a pair of black patent leather shiny stilettos. After seeing Zhou Liangan, he walked straight to him. This woman Zhou Liangan knows. Gao Peiying. I didn't expect to meet this woman in this place, which is indeed called Zhou Liangan, which is a little unexpected. Is it full-time or part-time? Part-time. What is the academic qualification? Is there any award certificate? Episode 20. Zhou Liangan didn't speak, just put his backpack on the table and pulled it away, and took a few national award certificates in his hand. After seeing these award certificates, Gao Peiying's eyes widened suddenly, and she looked at Zhou Liangan in disbelief. Half jokingly, he said, "Are you sure you didn't pay for this? If you don't believe me, you can check with the organizer of the relevant competition, and I am willing to take responsibility for my actions." Zhou Liangan said slowly. Looking at Zhou Liangan, who looked confident, Gao Peiying narrowed her eyes, smiled and waved her hand. "Yes sir, come to my office first," Gao Peiying said with a smile. Gao Peiying said as she handed over the folder in her hand to Zhang Litzan. The two came to Gao Peiying's office. Gao Peiying personally poured a glass of water for Zhou Liangan. "Mr. Zhou, what are your plans, or when will you have time to take on the task?" "I have time now, and I want to choose the task myself." Gao Peiying nodded with a smile. A person like Zhou Liangan who gets a soft hand will of course become a signboard of cram schools. Gao Peiying was thinking about how to fool Zhou Liangan into her place and join her for a long time. She narrowed her eyes slightly, scanning Zhou Liangan back and forth, and Zhou Liangan's scalp was numb. Zhou Liangan coughed lightly. "Ahem, is there anything on my face?" "No." 15 minutes later, Zhang Litzan came to Gao Peiying. "I've just checked and the certificates are fine." Hearing Zhang Litzan's reply, the smile on Gao Peiying's face deepened. "Mr. Zhou, these are some of the Chaebol children who are about to take the suspension aptitude test, and the class fees are very high. If you are interested, you can choose by yourself." When Zhou Liangan heard this, he took the folder in Gao Peiying's hand. Sure enough, exactly as he guessed. A bad girl like Lu Dali gives the highest class fee. Zhou Liangan clicked on Lu Dali's name on the folder. Just pick her. After getting Zhou Liangan's answer, Gao Peiying's face was full of smiles. "Okay, then I'll arrange it for you now. can you go to the trial class today? Zhou Liangan nodded, convenient. Okay. After Gao Peiing made a few phone calls, she looked at Zhou Liangan with a smile. Mr. Zhou, I have already contacted Mr. Lu Shuiying, and at 7 o'clock this evening, I will go to Jiang and Jingyuan next door for a trial class. Zhou Liangan nodded. 7 o'clock in the evening. Zhou Liangan knocked on Lu Shuiying's door on time. The door opened. A middle-aged man with silver hair and a big belly appeared in front of Zhou Liangan. It's Mr. Lu Shuiying. I'm here for a trial class. The man looked at Zhou Liangan with an arrogant expression. You're the tutor who came to tutor Dolly? How do you look about the same age as my Dolly? I think the educational institution has already introduced my basic situation to you. I am a fresh graduate, and there are numerous national awards. Lu Shuiying snorted coldly. Humph, even if you have countless national-level awards, what can you do? What Lu Shuiying said is indeed right. No matter how good you study in Goryeo, the best way out is to either be admitted to the civil service, or you will enter a large enterprise and become a lackey of the Chaebol. It's no wonder that Lu Shuiying is so arrogant. The corners of Zhou Liangan's mouth only hooked up a sneer. The more Lu Shuiying has such an arrogant attitude, the more he has a clear conscience when he does these things by himself. Come to Dolly Lu's room. Dolly wears loose loungewear, delicate facial features with long blonde hair, although he has only just come of age, but a delicate flower has already grown, especially when it doesn't look like a high school student at all. It's even more imaginative. The woman's expression revealed a kind of pride. Dolly Lu lights a lady's cigarette. Exhale a puff of smoke. I can accept you as my tutor. This is already the biggest concession I have made, so every time I read my comics in the future, you take your class fee, and everyone is happy. Dolly originally thought that Zhou Liangan would reject herself, but at this time I saw Zhou Liangan just nodding with a smile. Well, though, your father can't find out about it. Aren't you talking nonsense? Dolly said impatiently. As he spoke, he picked up a comic book and flipped through it casually. Dolly lay on the yoga mat, unsuspectingly cocking Erlang's legs, but forgot that she was just wearing a loose sweatshirt today. Episode 21. Zhou Liangan admired it with a smile. Then, footsteps were heard at the door. Zhou Liangan dragged Dolly up. Dolly had a slight hint of anger on her face. Bastard, what are you pulling me for? Your dad is outside the door now, and if you don't want your teacher to continue to be one of those nagging guys, you'd better continue to cooperate with me now. Zhou Liangan said angrily. Dolly heard this, although she was a little reluctant. But this time, the extracurricular teacher is not only handsome, but at least, not nagging. Simply cooperated with Zhou Liangan. Squeak. The door was pulled open a crack. Lu Shuiying poked her head in and looked at Dolly with a smile. Dolly, I want to ask you, would you like some fruit? Lu Shuiying said, looking at Dolly flatteringly. Dolly waved her hand impatiently. Hey, I'm going to take a leave of absence test soon, alas. I'm going to study hard with my tutor. In the past, every tutor of Dolly basically couldn't even try the class, and he would be kicked out by Dolly. But this time, Zhou Liangan actually passed the trial class, and it seems that his daughter seems to be very satisfied with him. Lu Shuiying involuntarily turned her head to look at Zhou Liangan. His brow furrowed slightly. The extremely arrogant reminder. Boy, you and Dolly are completely from two worlds. I advise you to put away your ridiculous and non-existent minds. Do you understand? Zhou Liangan looked at this arrogant old man, and a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. Mr. Lu, although I don't know why you are so hostile to me, I want to tell you that if you want to make money, I have a way to make you an extra 5 billion in the shortest possible time. Zhou Liangan said with a smile. When Lu Shuiying heard this, he just snorted coldly. Humph, you're a stinky boy who is so poor that you work as a tutor for others. Can you still help me earn an extra 5 billion? Lu Shuiying said with a disdainful expression. When Zhou Liangan heard this, he glanced at Lu Shuiying with a smile. How about the two of us make a bet? Sign a gambling agreement. If I do it, the extra money earned in addition to the 5 billion will belong to me, and if I can't do it, I will compensate you 5 billion myself. Hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Lu Shuiying thought about it and felt that this matter was a huge benefit. Yes, I can agree to that. Zhou Liangan nodded. 1 month, give me a month, and I will sell your piece of land at the junction of Guangjing District at least 8 billion yuan. Lu Shuiying thought back to the piece of land in Guangjing District that he had hoarded in his hands. The reason why I wanted to take that piece of land was because it was relatively close to Jiangnan District. Thinking about putting it in your hand to appreciate in value. But after 3 years in a row, the value has not fluctuated much at all, although there are also a few people who come to visit, but those guys only pay about 300 million each time, which is completely inconsistent with Lu Shuiying's expectations. It's obvious, what Zhou Liangan said was willing to give out the 800 million, which really made Lu Shuiying's heart move. Okay, I'll get a lawyer right now, draw up a contract, and you'll be waiting here. If you can really sell this land for 800 million, I'll give you 3 times your tuition salary. Sure enough, Lu Shuiying is still the stingy and greedy Lu Shuiying. 8 billion, at least 2 or 3 times the current value of this land. As a result, he was only willing to give Zhou Liangan 3 times his salary. Triple the salary is only about 10 million. Lu Shuiying found her own personal lawyer. It took an hour to draw up the contract. Zhou Liangan glanced at it, and then pointed. All the right of interpretation belongs to Party A, cross it out, and add in the supplementary agreement that 1 month later, no matter what the circumstances, Party B shall pay Party A 8 billion yuan for the purchase of land, and Party A shall not refuse or break the contract for any reason, and either party, if there is any breach of contract, shall compensate 50 billion liquidated damages. When Lu Shuiying heard this, her brows furrowed. Boy, your conditions are too harsh. There's nothing harsh about it. Breach of contract is born according to the common situation of both parties. Not only you have to bear it, but if I can't do it, I will also bear it, and the sale of 3 billion yuan of land to 8 billion yuan is just a month. If you don't agree, then forget it. Zhou Liangan was about to get up as he spoke. Lu Shuiying looked at the lawyer. The lawyer nodded, lowered his voice and said, actually, there is no problem. After a month, no matter how much this land is worth, he needs to pay you 8 billion to buy this land. Listening to the lawyer's explanation, Lu Shuiying coughed. Ahem, wait, I thought about it, and I agreed to your condition. After hearing Lu Shuiying's promise, a meaningful smile unconsciously slipped on the corner of Zhou Liangan's mouth. The contract was signed. This also means that not only can he take the opportunity to clear his suspicions and gain benefits, but most importantly, the land is 3 times larger than the one he auctioned. The larger the land, the more it can be used to develop luxury homes. A conservative estimate would never be less than 22 billion. You can earn 17 billion yuan by changing hands, and you can also pit Lu Shuiying, by the way. Zhou Liangan's mood was extremely comfortable. Back to the room. Lu Dali got up, put her hands in her pockets, and squinted her eyes slightly. A pair of bright eyes looked at Zhou Liangan back and forth. A faint sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. You're pretty good. Episode 22. Hearing this, Zhou Liangan narrowed his eyes slightly, and glanced at the woman in front of him with a smile. So what? What do you want to say? You didn't come to my house to help me with my homework. Speaking of which, Lu Dali approached Zhou Liangan forward. The beautiful eyes stared at Zhou Liangan's eyes, and said coldly, say, what is your purpose? Seeing Lu Dali's serious look, Zhou Liangan couldn't help but laugh out loud. He looked at Lu Dali with a smile and raised his eyebrows slightly. No, I'm curious about what good it will do you to laugh at me. Everything has a purpose. Take 10,000 steps back. I'm here to tutor you in order to get close to your father. So why do you say that I went to great lengths to make him earn an extra 500 million? Speaking of this, Zhou Liangan walked up to Lu Dali, stretched out 2 fingers, pinched the woman's chin, and leaned over to bow her head. The tips of the noses of the 2 people are almost pressed together. Lu Dali's heart was like a deer plopping around, and her heart was beating wildly. There was a faint flush on his cheeks. You. What are you doing? Said Lu Dali with a little shyness. Actually, you said that I was scheming. Maybe it's not impossible. Maybe I'm doing this to pursue you. Zhou Liangan's ruffian face, coupled with this bad voice at the moment, just this unintentional move was enough to cause Lu Dali's heart to pound like a deer. She tilted her head to the side. Don't mess around. Zhou Liangan looked at the shy girl, and the smile on the corner of his mouth couldn't help but deepen. I'm not messing around. I'm telling the truth. Lu Dali turned her head to the side and tried not to look at Zhou Liangan. Zhou Liangan leaned over and bowed his head. Lu Dali's eyes widened violently, wanted to push Zhou Liangan away, but he didn't have the slightest strength in his hands. Half an hour later, Lu Dali had a pair of beautiful eyes, looking at Zhou Liangan in a blur, with a little anger in her eyes. Bastard. You. How can you do that? That's my first time, the girl said with a little shyness. There is not much accusation in the words. Seeing this, Zhou Liangan glanced at Lu Dali with a smile. He walked up to Dali Lu. Didn't I just tell you? I came to be your tutor because I like you. Bastard, the 2 of us just met. Why do you say you like me? Maybe for you, the 2 of us just met an hour ago, but I've already met you, but I haven't had a chance to get to know you. Lu Dali's heart is like a deer pounced. She looked up at Zhou Liangan timidly. Really? Zhou Liangan nodded. Long blonde hair is the bottom line for you, so you often go to the barbershop and dye your hair blonde, but it's not the color of your hair. Listening to Zhou Liangan tell her secret, Lu Dali's heart was pounding. She bit her thin lip, and looked at Zhou Liangan with a complicated expression. And when did you meet me? 3 years ago. You passed by the station on a rainy night in your school uniform, and since then, I have been hopelessly fond of you. Of course, this was made up by Zhou Liangan. 3 years ago. I'm afraid Lu Dali herself may not be able to remember it clearly. After hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Lu Dali had a trace of confusion in her eyes, and she frowned slightly, as if she was recalling the truth of Zhou Liangan's words. But this kind of thing is not something that can be remembered clearly at all. For a while, Lu Dali couldn't think of it at all. Zhou Liangan got up. The trial class is over. You'll be here tomorrow, right? Zhou Liangan nodded. The premise is that I pass the trial class. Lu Dali waved her hand. Don't worry, I'll tell my dad and ask you to help me with my homework. Zhou Liangan smiled and nodded. That would be even better. With that, he turned to leave, looked at Zhou Liangan's back. A complicated look flashed in Lu Dali's eyes. On the way back, Zhou Liangan held the document bag in his hand, and a smug smile appeared on his face. Looks like things are going a lot smoother than I thought, because I didn't leave a phone call. Therefore, after Zhou Liangan finished the class, he still needed to go to the tutoring institution again to listen to the results. He had just arrived at the tutoring facility. I met a woman with an excellent figure. The woman's capital is quite abundant, and Zhou Liangan is even afraid of the woman's slender willow waist and can't bear the abundant capital. Episode 23. Zhou Liangan saw the woman in front of him. Suddenly, my eyes lit up. Hu Meizhu. This woman may have also come to the counseling agency to sign up. Thinking of this, Zhou Liangan walked up to Hu Meizhu with a smile. This young lady, are you here to find a tutor? Hu Meizhu nodded. Yes, what's wrong? Hearing Hu Meizhu say this, Zhou Liangan smiled. Nothing. Looking at such a strange Zhou Liangan, Hu Meizhu raised her eyebrows slightly. Then he got up and left. Zhou Liangan came to Gao Peiying's office. The parent of the student just now also came to find a tutor. Gao Peiying nodded. That's right, it's just looking for a tutor in an elementary school, and the commission is very low. And I'm about to call Li Chan to go to the student's home to make up the lessons. Listen to Gao Peiying's words. Zhou Liangan smiled faintly. I'd better go. Hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Gao Peiying's eyes showed a hint of surprise. The tone couldn't help but rise a little higher. What? You go. It's not appropriate for you to go. I'm afraid it's a bit overkill for a high-achieving student like you to teach a primary school student. And just now, the family you tried out the class has agreed to hire you as a tutor. If you work part-time and then tutor a primary school student, I'm afraid there will be a conflict of time. Zhou Liangan smiled and waved his hand. It doesn't matter, I'll coordinate the time, and I can take this opportunity to exercise my teaching skills, so it's decided. Just when Zhou Liangan thought that this matter was a certainty, Zhang Litzan suddenly pushed open the office door. No, I don't agree. Team leader, just teaching primary school students, this kind of work, I can do it. As for this new part-time colleague, this kind of tutoring primary school students, don't rob me. Hearing Zhang Litzan say this, a hint of a playful smile appeared on the corner of Zhou Liangan's mouth. He casually glanced back and forth at Zhang Litzan. He said with a smile, it doesn't matter. If you have to tutor that primary school student, then even Lu Dali will tutor it together, and I will take the initiative to resign. Hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Gao Peiying's face showed a trace of helplessness, and then turned her head to look at Zhang Litzan. Litzan, I will continue to arrange for you to tutor students. Since Liangan wants to tutor this primary school student, then let him go. When Zhang Litzan heard this, he couldn't help clenching his fists, and his eyes were fixed on Zhou Liangan. Asiba, team leader, this guy is clearly deliberate. I don't agree. Okay, then let the parents of the students choose for themselves. In this case, the two of you can't have any more opinions. Zhou Liangan smiled and nodded. Absolutely. Zhang Litzan gritted his teeth. I'm okay with that. However, Zhang Litzan also knows very well that compared with Zhou Liangan, he has no advantage at all. He looked at Zhou Liangan with a look of resentment, and anger was churning in his eyes. Zhou Liangan swaggered out of the office. It's a world of the jungle. It's not who is weak and who is reasonable. This has always been Zhou Liangan's life creed. Hu Meizhu has just returned home. I received a call from Gao Peiying. After Gao Peiying finished talking to Hu Meizhu about the simple situation, Hu Meizhu didn't think about it and directly chose Zhou Liangan. 5 minutes later, Zhou Liangan smiled and walked out of the office with Gao Peiying. Sister Peiying, how about having a meal together? Gao Peiying nodded. Okay. You little guy really deserves a treat. Some people may not be able to open an order for a few months, but your little guy received 2 commissions as soon as he came, and he is really still a high-quality student. Zhou Liangan smiled. Sister Peiying still has good resources. After the two people blew each other in business, they left. Only behind him was left, with a resentful look on his face, Zhang Litzan clenched his fists, gritted his teeth, and said, Axi, Zhou Liangan, I remember you. Zhou Liangan and Gao Peiying walked side by side on the street. Episode 24. Zhou Liangan and Gao Peiying walked down the street. The two came to a hot pot restaurant with a decent environment. After taking a seat, Gao Peiying looked at Zhou Liangan with a pair of beautiful eyes and a smile. A faint smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Tell me, why do you have to teach elementary school students? Gao Peiying stared at Zhou Liangan with a smile in her eyes. To improve the level of teaching, of course. Oh, yes? I still have a lot of high school students in need of tutoring. How about I arrange for you to help them tutor those high school students? No. Zhou Liangan said categorically. When Gao Peiying heard this, she glanced at Zhou Liangan with a smile, with a hint of playfulness in her eyes. I knew you, little bastard, your motives weren't pure. Zhou Liangan smiled slightly. We are still good friends. Gao Peiying glanced at Zhou Liangan angrily, said angrily, who wants to be friends with you, pervert? Zhou Liangan coughed slightly. Ahem, don't be friends with me. Why do you promise to accompany me out to dinner? Accompanying you out to dinner, just out of courtesy and politeness among colleagues, do you understand? Gao Peiying said quite arrogantly. Okay, good. Zhou Liangan lowered his head and ate hot pot. At this time, I heard Gao Peiying and suddenly spoke. Hey, how long are you going to be working here? You two students are done with the tuition. Can you work here for a while longer? Gao Peiying looked up at Zhou Liangan and said tentatively. After all, Zhou Liangan has won so many awards, and it is good to use his certificates to promote the tutoring institution. Hearing Gao Peiying say this, Zhou Liangan also saw through this woman's intentions. I can ask you to use these certificates of mine to promote and improve your performance, but, hearing Zhou Liangan's answer, a touch of joy suddenly appeared in Gao Pei's eyes, and he looked up at Zhou Liangan with a smile. But what? I can say whatever you want, as long as it's not excessive. Don't worry, I'm not asking too much. How about the two of us sharing a house together? Poof. Gao Peiying just ate a piece of meat in her mouth, and she squirted it out like this. Angry wide eyes, Zhou Liangan. If you don't think your request is too much, then I want to ask you, Mr. Zhou, what do you think is too much? Gao Peiying said angrily. Zhou Liangan smiled slightly when he heard this. Asking to sleep in a room with you is too much, but asking to share a room with you, we can share the rent and reduce the pressure a little, right? Gao Peiying rolled her eyes and glanced at Zhou Liangan angrily. Is there a difference between sharing a room with you and luring a wolf into the house? I'm a human, not a wolf. No, 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 I think you're an out-and-out pervert, so it's impossible for me to agree to your request. Gao Peiying said unusually resolutely. When Zhou Liangan heard this, he sighed faintly. Hey, I originally wanted to help you do a good job of performance and help you become an agent, but since you don't agree, then it's okay. If someone else says so. Gao Peiying must have scoffed, but after seeing so many award certificates in Zhou Liangan's hands, Gao Peiying believed what Zhou Liangan said. She looked up at Zhou Liangan. Bite your thin lip. Tell me, what do you want to do to help me become an agent? If you have a way, then the matter of sharing a house is not impossible to consider. Seeing Gao Peiying relieved, Zhou Liangan slowly walked over, and said with a smile, use the certificate in my hand to publicize to the outside world, and set up a special training class for all subjects, which is divided into 7 days and collects 2 million. At least 50 students are enrolled in a class. Of course, this is only the first step. As for the second part, it is a paid content. Judging from the current influence of our tutoring organization, it is not a problem to recruit enough students. But how can you guarantee that you can produce results? Zhou Liangan smiled faintly. It's very simple. In the entrance exam, make the test questions a little more difficult. The students' grades will naturally be poor, and after the special training is over, make the questions simpler, so that the students' grades will not be good, and everyone will be happy when the time comes. Gao Peiying's eyes whitened beautifully, and Zhou Liangan was angry. Are you a fraud? Of course not. I really don't understand. How can you say such shameless things with confidence? Well, take 10,000 steps back. Even if you can cope with the final exam, what if the students' grades are not satisfactory in the next semester? Of course, the students are greedy for fun during this holiday and don't study hard. Do you think these parents send their children to make up for the lessons? Will they believe what the children say? They will only believe the marks on the test paper after the special training class. Zhou Liangan said unhurriedly. Gao Peiying bit her thin lip. Zhou Liangan's IQ is indeed very high. After hesitating for a moment, Gao Peiying gritted her teeth. The rent is 200,000 yuan a month, and the water and electricity are evenly shared. No problem. Episode 25. Gao Peiying looked at Zhou Liangan with a pair of beautiful eyes. Now you can tell me what you said about what to do. When Zhou Liangan heard this, a meaningful smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, snapped his fingers and said with a smile, it's very simple. First of all, 2 million will enter the special training class, which is only the first charge, and second, you are responsible for arranging for someone to go down to the question bank to search for some real test papers and print them out, almost according to the amount of 1 set per student per day, and print them into tutoring materials. You just want to ask the students to do past papers in the 7-day special training class? Gao Peiying said with some suspicion. Zhou Liangan smiled and shook his head. Of course not. I mean 1 set per day during the holidays. If students have homework, they won't be able to complete a set of test questions every day. That's right. If they can't even complete the test questions, or copy the answers, even if it doesn't work later, why blame the teacher and the special training class? Zhou Liangan said with a smile. After hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Gao Peiying looked at him with a complicated expression. Is it really good for you to do this? What if your idea and strategy are discovered by other parents? Elites need to pass training. They can't even pass training. Why should they become elites? Zhou Liangan said with a little playfulness. In addition, the tutoring materials must be in a document bag, sealed, with top secrets written on it, a copy of 1 million, whether to buy it or not, it depends on the parents' own wishes, and there is to find a few students with high scores, take their notebooks and package them into champion notes, a copy of 500,000 yuan, whether to buy or not depends on the parents' voluntariness. Zhou Liangan said with a smile. After hearing Zhou Liangan say this, Gao Peiying suddenly found that compared with Zhou Liangan, she was simply not too kind. But if that happens, will it have an impact on the reputation of the educational institution? Zhou Liangan smiled and shook his head. Parents only know how to push their children to learn, they don't understand education at all. And I bet we do it. Not only will it not attract the disgust of those parents, but it will make them happy. But what if all the students bought both the top notes and our test questions? What if they didn't get their grades? Zhou Liangan rolled his eyes wildly after hearing her say this. Please, as long as your brain is fine, and you do a test paper every day, even if your head is a piece of wood, you can remember something. Gao Peiying nodded thoughtfully. Looking at Zhou Liangan, there was a hint of admiration in his eyes. I'll admit it, your idea is really powerful, so I'm going to apply to the agent now? Zhou Liangan raised his eyebrows slightly. Organize the people in your own group to work first, do the performance first, and then report this model, so that you can get the attention of the leader. Speaking of this, Zhou Liang paused. After the model is successful, you should also get a lot of commissions, and remember to do what you like when the time comes, only then will you be able to sit in that position. Gao Peiying nodded and looked at Zhou Liangan with admiration. This boy, who hasn't even graduated from high school, is completely an old fritter when he talks and does things. For people's hearts, human nature is very well controlled. Such a man is simply not too scary. Seeing Gao Peiying's eyes staring directly at herself, Zhou Liangan outlined a meaningful smile at the corner of her mouth. What? Don't you think I'm awesome? Less narcissistic? I've done you so much of a favor, and I've also shared the pressure of your rent, so you can't overdo this meal. Excessive, shouldn't this meal be AA? Hey, I've done so much for you, you can't even afford to invite me to a meal. Sure enough, this is a woman. Zhou Liangan said affectionately. Gao Peiying made a retching look. Gross, don't be so disgusting, thank you. In the end, Gao Peiying settled the account. That night, Zhou Liangan left his room and moved into Gao Peiying's house. The room was a simple apartment. 2 bedrooms, 1 living room and 1 bathroom. Gao Peiying pointed to the bedroom where the clutter was piled up before. In the future, if you live here, you can't enter my bedroom under any circumstances. Or be careful that I call the police to arrest you. Gao Peiying waved her pink fist and warned Zhou Liangan viciously. Looking at the cramped second bedroom, Zhou Liangan smiled. Hey, I want to stay in the master bedroom. It can't be. Then I resign now. Bastard, you don't want to get an inch. I'll quit tomorrow. Okay. For your master bedroom. Bastard. Gao Peiying said through gritted teeth. Zhou Liangan smiled faintly. By the way, whether it's the champion notes or the review materials, you can go to an outsourcing company to do it, so that you can directly kick out the company's share, which will be a considerable amount of income. No, then I resign. Bastard, can you say anything else? No. Gao Peiying was so angry with Zhou Liangan that she smoked. But in the face of this little bastard, she didn't have the slightest countermeasure at all. She took a deep breath. Yes. I promise you. Ahem, I'd like to remind you that the quality of the shirt is the best, especially the buttons. Listening to Zhou Liangan's mindless words, Gao Peiying was confused, and then bowed her head. A heart-rending roar followed. Bastard. I'm going to kill you.